All hearing me, please confirm that you are hearing me.
Loud and clear, Mr. Lang.
Thank you so very much, Miss Marsha Robotham. Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, on behalf of the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, through the Communication and Customer Service Branch and the Quality Institute Bureau of Standards Jamaica, I'm pleased to welcome you to this very important and timely awareness session. Today's session is not just about a competition. It really is about saving lives, protecting families, and helping to build awareness, particularly among our children and young people, especially in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa and similar storms when food safety becomes even more critical. Many of us would have heard stories over the last several months of the devastation in the western parts of Jamaica, particularly after Hurricane Melissa. As we prepare for the essay and the poster contest, we want to ensure that we share some information so that persons are aware, so that the youngsters who are submitting their essays and their posters have some information that can benefit them. You're here because you have a voice, because there's creativity in your bones, and you do get the chance to influence. I know that we use the word influencers quite casually now, but we want to help empower you, the students who will participate in this session, to use your voice through the essay and the poster competition. Before we begin, let me quickly outline what you can expect. You will hear details about the competition, including how to participate, and you'll even hear about what you can win. You will learn from an expert about safe food practices, and we are very happy to partner with one of our sister entities for this. You'll have a chance to ask questions. And of course, we will wrap up with some fun and interactive activities as we seek to ensure that learning takes place. I know it is 4:30. It is the end of the school day. It is the end of the work day. Some persons are dreading the thought of staying back in office, staying back at school, or maybe some of you are joining us as you are making your way home. But please stay engaged, and if you can, participate fully. We encourage the students in particular to jot down questions during the presentations. Make notes of the things that you have learned. Then you can use these pieces of information in your essays and to inform your posters. Respect each speaker and each other. So as we listen to individuals, let us demonstrate that care. As we speak, let us be respectful. But most importantly, we want you to have fun while you learn. And so when we get to that section led by our manager, Quality Institute, we are sure that you will have loads of fun. To get us started then, it is my pleasure to introduce someone who will guide you through the heart of today's initiative, the competition itself. This is the third year running, and we're very happy that the Quality Institute of the Bureau of Standards Jamaica came up with this idea. That entity here at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica pushes food safety. Among all the other things that we seek to do, they certainly make the effort to ensure that information about food safety. And we really must commend the manager of the area for the interesting topics that we have been able to present to the public over the last 2 years. We will hear some more about the rationale behind the theme, what is expected from you, and of course, we're going to get the rules because, of course, we want you to be able to appreciate the rules and to pass these on Whether it is that you are in the offices and you have youngsters that you're interacting with, you're a teacher and you are benefiting from the information to share with your students. Ultimately, we want persons to be able to get the necessary information from today's session to guide them in making those submissions that will really have the judges working hard. Then, based on all of that, it is my privilege to ask you to join me to put some emojis in the chat as we welcome Miss Marsha Robotham, who will provide the welcome background and full overview of the essay and poster competition. And we ask you now, just light up the room with some chats, with some emojis in the chat as we welcome the marketing officer of the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, Miss Marsha Robotham. Make her welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Marsha Robotham. Thank you, Mr. Ling. I am the marketing officer here at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, and I would like to welcome you all for joining our webinar and to learn more details about our school food safety essay and poster competition that we're very excited to share with you. In commemoration of World Food Safety Day, observed annually on June 7th, the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, which is an agency of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, is proud to present the third staging of the School Essay and Poster Competition in 2026. This competition is endorsed by the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information and forms a part of the BSJ's ongoing commitment to promoting food safety awareness among Jamaica's youth. This initiative is designed to educate and engage students across the island on the importance of food safety, particularly in light of public health risks following extreme weather events, such as the recent historic impact of Hurricane Melissa in October. This year's theme is After the Storm, Keep Food Safe, Stop Leptospirosis. Through this theme, students are encouraged to explore how proper food handling, hygiene, and storage practices can help prevent illness and protect communities, especially in the aftermath of disasters. Who can participate in the essay and the food competition? It's open to students island-wide, primary and secondary levels, with categories including lower primary, which are grades 1 to 3, upper primary, which are grades 4 to 6, lower secondary, which are grades 7 to 9, upper secondary, which are grades 10 to 13. These are some important dates to note. The launch date is actually tomorrow, March 26th, and the last day to submit your entries is April 24th. The awards ceremony for first place prizes will take place live on June 5th on TVJ. These are some guidelines for the format for the essay. The layout should follow. All entries should be typed. Font style Times New Roman. Font size 12. Line spacing 1.5. Pages should be numbered at the bottom right-hand corner, and each paragraph should begin in a new line. For the posters, the following topics should be depicted: proper food storage, safe food preparation and handling, hygiene practices, preventing cross-contamination, food safety regulations, and pest control. And you want to know where you can deliver your entries. So they can be delivered in person at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, which is located at 6 Winchester Road, Kingston 10, or any of the offices of the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth, and Informational regional offices. Please note the email for the email for the entries are cpu@bsj.org.gm. cpu@bsj.gm. And I will repeat it. However, all of these details are available on our poster, but this email is cpu@bsj.org.gm. What are the prizes? So, for the two categories in essay and for the poster competition for upper secondary, there are two laptops, one for each category. And all other areas will get a 10-inch Samsung tablet. Second prize winners get a gift voucher valuing $15,000, and third place gets a gift voucher valued at $10,000. This competition forms a part of BSJ's ongoing commitment to promoting food safety awareness, protecting public health, and building a culture of quality from a young age. We encourage all schools, teachers, and students to participate and take advantage of this opportunity to learn, create, and win. Thank you. Mr. Leng, over to you.
Thank you very much, Marcia, for that detailed presentation. You have reminded us that the information is available on the poster, and in a little bit we will share the poster again in this session. But information can be accessed as well from our website and from our social media pages, and we invite you to check those spaces for the information hereafter. So thank you very much, Marcia. Now I'm going to ask a question, not promising you any prizes though, but I'm going to ask a question inside this space. Can anybody drop the topics or the topic that we're working with, the theme that we're working with in the chat? Maybe I should get the Jeopardy music playing, but we are using one title for our topic for this particular competition this year. Can anybody drop that in the chat? Or maybe I need to be sharing it with you. So let me see. If I see movement in the chat, then I will know that we are all good and we know it. All right, no answers in the chat. So is there somebody coming up with the answer? So persons have gathered here for this prize or for the competition, school food safety. Somebody says after the storm. Is that the topic? So let me just simply share with us all that the topic that we are working with, proper food practices, aftermath, hurricane from Lavinia, food safety after the storm. All right. So I'm going to take you out of the suspense. Kimo, was that the poster that you dropped in the chat? All right. So our visual communication officer, Kimo, has shared the poster. But Kimo, if you could just bring it on screen, if you're able to just place it on screen for us. And the topic, this is what we are working with, and I see persons having variation. So there's an understanding. But just to be clear, the topic is storm recovery starts with a safe food, prevent leptospirosis. I'm not sure that that is what we want to be seeing, Kimo. All right. After the storm, keep food safe, stop leptospirosis. I'm sure we have storm recovery starting with safe food. And so it's really for us after the storm, keep food safe, stop leptospirosis. So now that's a big word that as a little boy I didn't know. And that is where we're going to get the main presentation from. We're going to get some information that's going to help all of the boys and girls who may just have been introduced to this after the hurricane, who may have heard about it before, and who want to know exactly how to prepare their essays and their poster. So our next presenter is an expert in this area, and she will help us understand the real life importance behind the topic. She is a food safety professional with over 11 years of experience in regulatory and operational food safety, including 4 years in food manufacturing and nearly 7 years with the Food Storage and Prevention of Infestation Division, FSPID. She works in the Training and Information Unit, is experienced in developing and delivering technical training to inspectors and industry personnel in key subject areas such as pest management, food safety principles, and inspection techniques. So really and truly, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, she is an ideal person to present this session. So have no doubt. Her proficiency in translating regulatory standards into practical training aids in strengthening compliance, helping people to be in compliance, and improves inspection outcomes. Because all of us want safe food before the hurricane, after the storm, during the hurricane. We want to know that when we go to the wholesale, when we go to the restaurant, when we go to the supermarket, the conditions under which our food that we are purchasing, we want to know that those tins, those products, those bags are all safe. We want to know that when they come in from overseas and we pick them up at the ports of entry, we want to be assured. And this entity plays a key role. And as a certified preventive controls qualified individual with a strong understanding of preventive food safety systems and regulatory frameworks, she is ideal for our presentation today. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, teachers and administrators, help me welcome our presenter for today's session. And Kimo, you may take down this presentation, the flyer at this time, and help me welcome to this stage, the virtual stage, our food scientist, our food safety scientist, and I'm introducing no other than Miss Delia Riley. Make her welcome as she comes.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, ladies, gentlemen, students. Thank you for having me. I am very happy to be here, and I hope that we can have a conversation of sorts this evening, well, this afternoon. I know you won't be able to respond immediately, but as we go through the presentation, I'm going to ask that you jot your questions down, anything that you need clarity on. Do not hesitate to note those so that we can address them when it's time to have that question and answer portion. So I am now going to share the presentation and we can go through it. Now, we're working with the theme, Storm Recovery Starts with Safe Food. Please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can. I'm seeing it. Great.
Okay. Right. So storm recovery starts with safe food. Prevent leptospirosis. And of course, I'm going to be taking it from the side of the FSPID, the Food Storage and Prevention of Infestation Division, because we are very much in favor, or we work towards preventing infestation. It is a part of our name, and rodent infestation will fall under that. So just to give you a bit of an introduction to who we are a division under the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. We are regulators primarily, which means that we have rules and laws that we are out in the public enforcing. And we use the FSPI Act of 1958, regulations of 1973, and amendments of 2019 to communicate what those requirements are, what it is exactly that we want businesses especially to have in place to ensure that everybody is getting safe and wholesome food. Now, the FSPID has various units that have various focus. So we have the Inspectorate and Disinfestation Unit. They are essentially the face of the division. They are the ones that will go into these entities and do the inspections. We have the Training and Information Unit, of which I am a part. So training and information dissemination is what we do. Then we have 5 labs. We have the entomology, microbiology, pesticide residue and mycotoxin, post-harvest technology, and the Rodent Biology and Control Lab, which I know is going to be very important in this discussion. In fact, in preparing this presentation, I had to speak with the rodent biologists because that's their focus. They focus on rodents, they focus on rodent behavior, they look at how to limit rodent populations and activity in and around food spaces. And the picture to the right of the screen is actually a picture taken from our rodent lab of the rodents that we have in there that we observe and conduct tests on. Now, we spoke a bit about the Inspectorate and Disinfestation Unit, and they are the ones, as we said before, that carry out the inspections. Now, when they go into the entities, what they hope to find or what they want to enforce are ensuring that food and feed is being stored off the ground on pallets or on other suitable surfaces. Now, if you look in the picture to the left, you will see one of our inspectors. And this particular entity has their storage conditions the way we want to see them. So the boxes are on pallets raised off the ground and other things are on shelves. We also want to ensure that food and feed is stored to eliminate or to minimize infestation and contamination. So we want to restrict pest entry. We want to restrict any contamination from chemicals and any tampering unnecessarily that will now make food open to being contaminated and infested. Now, please note that I'm saying those two words and we will dive into exactly what that means for us a little later on. Right. So our inspectors also go in to ensure that physical measures are in place. I mentioned before that we're trying to prevent pest entry into food storage spaces. So we encourage the use of insect mesh and rodent-proof mesh, and we also encourage the use of door closures just to ensure that no door is left open or carelessly or unnecessarily. We also look to see that good sanitation practices are taking place. Any necessary pest control must also be done and documented. So we are checking for proof of that just to ensure that one, the chemicals that are being used, if any are being used, are approved chemicals for food storage spaces, and that these pest control activities are taking place at a schedule or timeline that is appropriate for the space. Now, whenever the entities are meeting our requirements, they will get certificates of compliance. And if they have issues to fix, they will be instructed to do so. And there are times when we'll have to collect samples of the food or feed that is being stored just to take them to our labs, to have our labs analyzed to ensure that everything is safe and wholesome. Now, our mission, as the mantra under our logo says, ensuring food safety and wholesomeness. That to us means that food is maintained and stored in good condition that will not make us or our animals sick, because food covers feed as well. Now, contamination and infestation, those are the terms I was referring to before. And contamination for us means any unsanitary or unclean condition that is as a result of bacteria, pesticide residue, pathogenic organisms. And I left that in there specifically because we are focusing on the disease leptospirosis, which is caused by a pathogenic bacterium, which is leptospira bacteria, right? Now, we have to verify that they are not present in amounts that pose either a risk to health down the road or a risk to health right now. Similarly, infestation will speak to the presence of fungi, or what we know as mold or mildew, the presence of insects. We're very much familiar with insect infestations. Arachnids, that refers to our spiders, and of course rodents, which are rats and mice, and these need to be present in sufficient numbers in order for them to be considered an infestation, and that amount or the number of organisms present must pose a risk to the quality of food or may be able to damage food or contaminate food for us to really consider it an infestation. The presence of one rat in a food storage space may not be an infestation, but it is definitely something that will need to be addressed. Now, considering those things that we just mentioned that we look for, we also need to look at what factors. So when those conditions that we hope are maintained are not maintained, what factors then will affect food safety and wholesomeness? We're going to look at three broad categories. So we're going to consider storage, we're going to consider sanitation practices, and we're going to consider the management of pest activity. Now, for storage, we want food to be stored in waterproof containers primarily, or they must be elevated off the floor. So pallets or shelves, and these must not be lower than 4 inches or 10 centimeters. That's the lowest height it can be off the ground for it to meet our requirements. Also, these commodities must be kept away from walls and ceilings. Keeping them away from these surfaces means that if there is moisture introduced to the storage space, that the food isn't coming in contact with it. Now, one thing to note is though we primarily focus on industry, we primarily focus on commerce, where food is sold, distributed. So our restaurants, supermarkets, warehouses, and hotels, this information is still very applicable to homes. And we have to take it down to that level because each person has an individual responsibility to safeguard their food's safety and wholesomeness. Buildings used for storage must also be of sound construction. And what we mean by that is we do not want a building that's falling apart, that has cracks and crevices, holes, broken window panes. It must be sound. And in the instance that some damage happens, then it needs to be repaired. That falls under maintaining those buildings in good condition. Under storage, we need to also check that storage containers are not damaged. Damaged containers can indicate one, pest activity because pests will damage those containers, or it can now give the pests an opportunity to enter and cause damage to your food or contaminate food with, again, pathogenic microorganisms. Food or feed must be stored away from chemicals such as pesticides that may contaminate them. This information is all contained in our FSPI Act and regulations. We also have the category of sanitation practices. And just an aside, you will note, and I hope that these pictures will be of help, especially in the poster competition. To give your posters some life, I went ahead and tried to generate some that I thought, adequately reflected or gave a good idea of what I want to communicate. But under sanitation practices, we have to ensure that food storage spaces are clear of waste or even exposed food, because the food can still be good but left open. It must also be clear of dirt, garbage, and any unnecessary clutter. These are all means that will attract pest activity, and we want to reduce that. We need to also ensure that regular garbage collection takes place. And if we can't ensure that, then we have to ensure that our garbage is stored in tamper-proof containers that are not easily accessed until that garbage is collected. We need to clean and sanitize food storage containers and preparation surfaces. And we have a very specific regulation in our FSPI regulations that says that walls must be washed or cleaned at least once per year. Of course, more frequently if the space gets dirty more quickly. Now, the picture on the right kind of summarizes some of the information that we've spoken about. There is an example of a type of mesh that can be used to exclude or block pests from entering. And it also highlights the need for adequate sanitation and ensuring that your building is kept and maintained in sound condition. The third category that we are going to consider is pest management. And again, rodents, very, very good pests. They are excellent at what they do, and we have to be knowledgeable of how to handle pests in general and especially rodents. So Pests have the same general requirements as humans do. We need somewhere to live, they do too. We need food, they want our food. And we need good and clean water, and they love that as well. So we have to restrict their access to those things. And that is why we mentioned before, you would block or exclude them using insect and rodent mesh and other mechanisms or other methods of keeping them out. You can permanently block out a space as well. So any opening that is not needed for air, you don't need it for ventilation, you don't need to pass through there, it's not a door, block it out permanently. Please look at the point that says rodent-proof mesh. Rodents have very hard, very sharp teeth, and they are able to chew through anything that is softer than their teeth. So they will chew through board. They will chew through thin concrete. They will chew through metal that's thin enough. So you have to ensure that whatever it is that you are using to block rodents out is thick enough, it is strong enough to withstand their bites. We also have to ensure that doors fit snugly, as in a tight enough fit, not to restrict it from opening, but tight enough that the rodents have nowhere to pass through or around it. Right? So that will include putting metal platings at the bottoms of the doors. They can't bite through that. They'll encounter that. Using bushing. So again, that will give a seal at the bottom of the door that they can't pass around. Anything that is larger than a quarter of an inch, any opening larger than a quarter of an inch will give rodents opportunity to enter. So we have to ensure that they do not have that opportunity. We can also utilize pest control measures such as trapping, baiting, and any other chemical treatments, because baits do fall under chemical treatments as well. Now, those are the before the storm. That's the offensive approach. Put your preventive measures in place before an issue happens. Now, we have gone through Hurricane Melissa, and this is after the storm. So now what do we do considering those categories that we just looked at? Again, we are going to consider storage, we're going to look at sanitation practices, and we're going to look at pest management or managing pest activity. And the reason for this is that after a storm, we are exposed to very varying conditions. We have flood waters. We have power outages that affects what we're able to store and how long we're able to store food. We have moisture. Rain continues to fall. The ground is wet, soppy. It's not drying away. All these conditions can displace pests, and they can come and contaminate food. Flood waters in and of themselves can also be sources of contamination, and we will look at that. So we need to ensure that we are managing these issues correctly, or the effects of these issues, because if not, then they will continue on and on, weeks, months, and that will really set us back health-wise. So looking back at the categories again, storage. When in doubt, throw it out. Throw away any food that may have come in contact with flood water and that is not in waterproof packaging that may prevent that flood water from entering and touching your food. And the picture to the right shows exactly that. Anything that has touched flood waters, toss it. Those waters can contain unsafe chemicals because, again, the water is running everywhere, washing everywhere. Pathogenic microorganisms such as the leptospira bacteria, which we mentioned. And due to these contaminants, we can get sick. There will also be other biological contaminants. Dead animals are those are things that we have to contend with. Biological waste such as sewage are also things that might contaminate water, and flood waters will present us with that unique challenge. We also need to ensure that we are using waterproof containers to store food. So new food that is coming in, aside from the food that we may have tossed, we still need to ensure that those are also being stored in waterproof containers because we are in a more vulnerable state, and we need to ensure that what we're storing is going to last and stay safe. Clean or sanitize commercially sealed food packages, such as cans, before opening. And when we say commercially sealed, it's coming from the factory sealed. So we're talking those bags that are thick enough to withstand significant damage, and they are strong and waterproof. And we're also, of course, talking about canned goods, which we are always encouraged to have for natural disasters, because those last and they're easily cleaned, even if they do come in contact with some contaminants. Do not stockpile perishable goods. Perishable goods will include or vegetables or meats. Get only what you will use in the moment, use it, and don't hoard anything, right? Durable commodities, now these are things that we expect to last for some time and that can be stored for extended periods, can include staples such as your rice, flour, peas, beans, and those at times may come in relief packages after a storm. We need to ensure that these are stored in sturdy waterproof containers as well, because it makes no sense for us to get new food and then it gets damaged because of exposure to moisture. So keep those stored, one, away from pests, and two, in containers where contaminants cannot easily get to them. For sanitation, our next category, we need to ensure, one, personal hygiene is still being maintained, good personal hygiene. So hands need to be washed, food and food preparation surfaces need to be cleaned with a disinfecting solution. So that can be diluted bleach, that can be hydrogen peroxide, that can be commercially manufactured disinfectants. Whatever it is, we need to ensure that these are being used, because we need to cleanse these areas and our bodies of any microorganisms that can make us ill. Garbage collection might be a challenge, so we can bury organic waste. And for other waste that we are not able to get rid of in this way, we can also go ahead, put those in tamper-proof containers as best as possible until they can be collected. Pest management after the storm. We have to expect that pest activity is going to increase. Flooding will displace rodents, it will displace flies, ants. I don't know if with all the rain anybody else is experiencing a lot of ants trying to come into their house, but again, they do need housing and they will compete with us for ours. So we need to expect that we're going to need to really amp up our efforts to keep these pests out of our food storage spaces, especially, and out of our homes by extension. So it is necessary to implement proper pest management practices. Additionally, we need to monitor our pets and be careful of how we handle our pets. They are not ordinarily considered pests, but they can bring those contaminants on their bodies if they are exposed to them. So our dogs can also be carriers of the Leptospira bacteria that causes leptospirosis. They may come in contact with contaminated water and food sources and be vectors or disease carriers themselves. So we have to, one, limit our handling of them, and two, ensure to wash and sanitize our hands after touching them. Now, we're going to consider leptospirosis itself. And this is actually a picture of the Leptospira bacterium. It looks like a telephone cord. Showed a coworker earlier and he's like, why do I have a telephone cord in my presentation? But that is, Leptospira speaks to the spiral formation of the bacterium, right? Now, the bacteria are spread when humans or other animals come in contact with urine, blood, or tissue of infected animals, as well as contaminated water sources and surfaces. Now, the primary or the most common carrier of the Leptospira bacteria that we know are rodents, and that's our rats and mice. But they can be, the bacteria can also be found or be carried by other animals, so livestock such as cattle, horses, goats, or pets. We spoke about that. So our dogs and our cats might come in contact with something that's contaminated. And of course, wildlife. So we're thinking bats, or as we call them, rat bats and mongooses, can also be carriers of the leptospira bacteria. So we have to be mindful of where these vectors are and how easily the bacteria can spread to make us sick. And again, keeping these things in mind will always keep us on high alert to prevent the spread. And that is what we need to do. Keep it front of mind. Environmental sources of the leptospira bacteria, they grow well in moist environments. And as I said, right now we are having very wet conditions. The weather is not easing up with the rain. So bacteria in our temperate zone will thrive right now with the kind of weather that we're having. Now, they can survive in water and soil for weeks up to months, especially after heavy rainfall or flooding. So again, bear that in mind. The bacteria enter the human body through abrasions or scrapes, cuts, cracked skin, as well as through the nose, mouth, and eyes, which are collectively known as mucosa, because again, mucous membranes. So it will very easily enter our bodies through these moist areas. Bearing those things in mind, there are some tips that we have that can help to prevent the spread of leptospirosis or the leptospira bacteria. Since the bacteria can enter the human body through the areas that we mentioned before, so abrasions or scrapes on the body, cuts or cracked skin, it is important to wear protective shoes if we have to come in contact with moisture. Ideally, wear protective shoes overall, but ensure, especially if you have to be in water that's potentially contaminated, that water boots are worn or other protective gear is worn. Do not swim or wade in water that might be contaminated. And how do we know if it's contaminated? We don't. So we have to be careful. Handle dead rodents with care by wearing gloves or using shovels to remove them. And that is the reality. If we are dealing with an infestation of rodents that we think might be leading to a leptospirosis outbreak, we're going to try to kill them, which means that we are going to be dealing with dead rodents and they will have to be disposed of. So the recommendation is, once they're dead, and you're wearing your gloves and relevant protective gear, or you're using your shovels to remove them, spray the dead rodents down with dilute bleach solution. And the recommendation is 1 part bleach to 10 parts water. So if you're using a teaspoon of bleach, use that with 10 teaspoons of water. And that is a good enough solution to kill the bacterial pathogen on the rodents' bodies. And then you will put them in bags. And again, the recommendation is to double those bags, because we have to be mindful, excuse me, we have to be mindful of our sanitation professionals. We do not want to get them sick either. So as best as possible, safeguard our neighbors while safeguarding ourselves. Under the category of storage and sanitation, we continue. Treat water with bleach and or boil before using, and ensure that it is stored in tightly sealed containers afterward. And that is very important, again, because we can have pests enter or stored water containers if they're not tightly sealed. And then that defeats the entire purpose of storing water in the first place, because we want clean, potable water to use. So we need to ensure that it is kept that way. Use only clean, treated water to wash hands, to wash food containers, and surfaces. Food, such as fruits, must be washed before being eaten. And this is very important. I think it is a common practice among us as Jamaicans when we are washing fruits to wash with water and water only. We simply go and we rinse it under the water and we think that is fine. Water will not kill the pathogens. We need to wash our fruits carefully. Dilute bleach solution works, but not, so you have to ensure that it is properly dilute, because we do not want to go to the other extreme where we're now being poisoned by bleach. So again, utilize the recommendations that are out there in the public health sphere, 1 to 10, or we were hearing the other day on the radio, 8 drops to a gallon, and let that sit for some time. That kind of water is better to help clean your fruits. Also, if you see bite marks on food or fruits, do not simply cut off the bitten portion and eat the rest. And I will give you a visual, a mental picture of that. Imagine a banana and the rodent bit one end. But while biting one end, it was passing urine on the other. You see the bite, you cut the bite off, and you think the rest is fine. But now you are about to consume the most dangerous portion. Because you are uncertain, you throw it away. When in doubt, throw it out. We must try to store garbage as far away from homes as possible, because if the garbage is allowed to pile up, pest activity will increase very close to our homes. So we need to try and prevent that. And as we said before, use tightly sealed containers. If pet food spills or if there is excess when we are feeding our pets, we need to clean that up and store said pet food in tightly sealed containers as well, because rodents love pet food. They love dog food. They love cat food. They will go for your chicken feed. Be mindful that these are stored in rodent-proof containers. Ensure that all stored food items can be easily seen, and inspect them often. So they should not be in the back of the pantry and we are not able to see them to check that they are still in good condition. We need to verify that there isn't an infestation harboring and that we have no contamination or we have no spoilage going on. And of course, we need to check regularly for damage to buildings and to repair or correct that damage in a timely manner. Rodents and bats will be present in fruit trees. Do not have trees leaning against your buildings, your homes. As best as possible, cut the branches that are on your homes away from it. Remove or minimize clutter. After a storm, we might have to gather building material, or we are salvaging what was left behind after damage to our homes. Be mindful that that stored in the yard or stored in the home can be clutter, and if we are not moving them around often enough, that can provide housing for our pests. So be mindful of that. Utilize traps. Use rodenticides if safe and if necessary to do so. And when I say if safe, I do mean adults should utilize rodenticides. And when adults are utilizing rodenticides, they need to read the instructions. Also, we do not touch poisons. We do not touch pesticides with our bare hands. So we have to ensure that we are covering our hands with gloves. If we need to use a plastic bag, we can do that. And then, of course, wash our hands after. Those are ways that we can help to prevent the spread of leptospirosis. And there's a tip that I noted at the bottom because I was speaking with our rodent biologist this morning, and she said that baiting, if you set a rodent wax block or wax pellets, for example, place some water close by because the water can attract them. Again, they do want clean and fresh water, and they will also feel the urge to feed at the same time and feed on the rodenticide. So it helps with rodenticide uptake. So that ends my presentation, but I have this other picture again. I hope it gives you fodder for your posters. Do your part in preventing leptospirosis. Avoid contact with rats and pests that may be infected with the bacteria. Keep surroundings clean. Store food in sturdy containers. And of course, wear protective gear, including protective footwear. Thank you. So if you have any questions, I hope you wrote them down, ready to answer.
Oh my goodness, Miss Riley, I can't go eat no more food this evening. Oh my goodness, there was a point at which I said, oh, when you spoke about the rat at what? Oh. All right, somebody else will have to moderate after this point. But anyway, thank you for your presentation. It was informative It was clear, it was simple. I learned quite a bit, really and truly. Know me, and I have said to some persons that my dad was a public health inspector. And so street food, for example, me never in a them someday. A stubborn and waywardness. No, after this presentation, oh my goodness, I thought I was doing well with the liquor salt and water. The liquor tubes of bleach, everything now. Oh my goodness, I have to revisit everything. But thank you for your graphic, clear, succinct presentation that I know will help our students, will help our teachers, will help our parents, and will help those of us involved in this business to understand just what we need to do. And I think now even more we feel for those persons in Western Jamaica, in St. Elizabeth, in Trelawney, in St. James, in Hanover, Westmoreland, who went through all they did. Now we can kind of see it even a little bit more. And the good thing, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, is that this presentation is going to be uploaded to the BSJ's website and YouTube channel so that more persons will have access to this information. But anyway, let me pause and give you an opportunity to ask your questions of Ms. Riley, because I know that you have questions. Please raise your hands, use the raise hand feature, indicate, and the first, of course, with the raise hand feature, the first person in line will take that question. We'll take those questions in the order in which they come. So please go ahead with your questions. All right, Miss Riley, I don't see a oh, let me just check the chat. All right, commendations going up in the chat for you. I think or the lack of raised hands suggests that the information was so crystal clear. But let me just give us an opportunity again. If there are any questions at all, if there's anything that we want to query, please go ahead and raise your hands. But if you have no questions, it means that we really need to say to Ms. Riley, thank you, thank you, thank you for an insightful presentation, a presentation that was graphic. There's a little point at which I really wanted to run. But the information was beautifully presented and I appreciated it. Now, since we have no questions and no questions, and so no answers to offer, I'm going to invite Miss Deidre Taylor, the manager of the Quality Institute, to, let me just check to see these questions. Yes, I'm going to invite Miss Deidre Taylor to come forward, and we're going to ensure that learning is fun. It was a fun time. We had a very engaged and engaging presenter, but now we have an interactive session and we're inviting the mentee specialist, not mental health specialist, Deidre, to take to the floor. Make her welcome, guys.
Good day, everyone. Sorry, I had some feedback just now, so just adjusted my volume. Are you hearing me?
Hearing you clearly and much better than the
Awesome.
initial.
So I recognize some persons are on and the kiddies are in the background. I have a little interactive session, so I'm not sure how you're going to work it out if the students are going to show to you the answers, right? But I'm going to share my screen and let us see if you learned anything from the presentation just now. And I think you learned a lot because you didn't have any questions. So let us see. Are you seeing my screen? Is everyone seeing my screen? Okay. All right. So just scan the QR code that's on the screen. If you're not so technologically savvy, then you can go to menti.com and enter the number on the screen, 14681361. Some persons have joined already. They can just use the camera feature on your phone, on your smartphone, and just scan that QR code, right? Or go to menti.com and enter 14681361. I want to see many persons participating, so I'm waiting until I have at least 15 persons. Alrighty. Seeing a half of that joined. All right, increasing. Alrighty. And if you don't know how to scan the QR code, just go on camera, point it up to the screen, and you'll see something appearing at the bottom. You click the link. Alrighty, I'm going to work with the number that I have now. All right. So, name one thing that you are most concerned about after a storm. So just click submit after you write your response and it will come up on the screen. All right. Safety of food and water, shelter. You really mean this, or is just because of Miss Delia presentation? Because, see somebody write what I was, the first thing I'm concerned about is if I can turn on my fan. That is, I'm being honest, the electricity and the water. And then I remember about disease and rat. I think that is food shortage. Yes. And you see how big shelter is? That is indicating that many persons wrote shelter. That is why it's being featured so prominently. Alrighty, I'm going to move on while the other 5 persons decide what they are most concerned about. All right. So, what is the main purpose of proper food storage? Is it to change the taste of the food? Is it to keep the food fresh and safe? Or we want the food to look bigger? Or is it to increase cooking time? So nobody don't want to make the food look bigger or change the taste. All right, that's indeed correct. You want to keep the food fresh and safe. How does leptospirosis get into your body? All right. Let us see. All right. We have a tie. We don't have a tie. What was once a tie is being loosened. We get into a tie again. All right. Through cuts or wounds. All right. We have a tie again. Don't have a tie. All right. So basically, nobody thinks it's through breathing clean air. Through cuts or wounds or through eyes, nose, or mouth. All right. Rank these safety actions from most to least important. So what do you think is most important? Washing your hands before eating, covering food and water, avoiding flood water, or wearing shoes outdoors. So let me see you rank these from most to least important. So the one that is most important to you should have the highest ranking. So you're going to tap that and pull it across the most. Right? So everybody is thinking, all right, that you must wash your hands before eating is the most important thing. And then covering your food and water is second most important based on this graphic being presented. Okay. Name one symptom of leptospirosis. One thing that happens to you if you should contract this deadly disease. Fever, vomiting, body ache, fever. You see how big fever is? Everybody is saying fever. All right, body, running belly. Yes, yes, yes. Fever, joint pain. No man, that sound like arthritis. Oh dear. Oh Lord. All right. So we're seeing the main ones, right? All right. What can keep rats away from your home? If you leave garbage outside, will that keep the rats away? If you keep your garbage covered, will that keep the rats away? Or if you drop food on the ground? And many of us do this. Even when we go to wedding and other events, we just scrape the bone and the peas on the ground and hope that there's a little kitten or dog nearby to come and eat it. And then we wonder why we have rodent issues, right? Many of us guilty. All right, but you're indeed correct. You want to cover your garbage, right? And tie up your bag so you don't leave any room for them to come and enjoy themselves. Is who writing up on my screen? Somebody's writing up on my screen and making it difficult for the participants to see. All right. Why is flood water dangerous after a storm? It may be cold. It may contain germs. Or it may make your shoes wet. Which one? But if you make your shoes wet, you might catch flu, right? Why nobody's choosing that? Yes, it may contain germs, so we have to be careful. Thank you. You all did great. That was short and hopefully spicy. Thank you for your participation. I'll hand back over to Mr. Lang. Thank you, Sir Lang.
Thank you, Miss Taylor. Thank you so very much. We all did great, and so did you. And we are at the end of our session. We thank you, Miss Taylor. We thank Miss Riley for the presentation, and we thank you for all the participants, especially those 15 persons who participated just now. Thank you for being engaged with us. As we close, let me just leave with you this thought. The knowledge you gained today is not just for the competition, nor is it for your children who will enter the competition, nor is it for the students you teach. I have learned things in this session that I know will stay with me for life. I'm hoping it is the same for you. The information we got today, we can use this to educate our classmates, to educate our families, to educate our friends. And through the posters and the essays that you submit, you can influence your communities, your school communities, your church communities, your families. And of course, we get an opportunity to promote safe practices, especially in difficult times such as what we experienced after Hurricane Melissa. And we know that ever so often in this country, we do have the hurricanes, we have excess rain. Unfortunately, some of that rain is not getting into the Constant Spring treatment plant, so some of us are doing without water all throughout the day. But we get all of this rain and the problems come. Some of the farmers have issues. The information we got today, I ask us to share this with the rest of the world. Share this with our neighbors, with our friends. But as we have said, we will upload this session to our website, bsj.org.jm, and we will make it available on our YouTube channel so we can always, teachers, you can point it to the other students who have not been present here today, and we remind you that we are looking forward to your entries, and as Marsha, Miss Robotham said, big prizes to be won. Thank you. So there is a question. There's a question from Lavinia, and I'm going to ask Deidre to take this question. Can a child participate in both categories of essay and poster, or is it restricted? No, I think you can enter both in essay and in poster. No restrictions there in that regard. Deidre, am I correct? Yes, students may enter in both essay and poster. Depends on the child's skills and abilities. Please encourage them. And for the teachers who are on, I know that sometimes we want to select the very best. What we encourage is that if you want to look at the essays before, look at the posters before and help them to improve on it. But don't limit the number of students. Don't cut back. Encourage them to participate fully. So if there are 30 students in a class and 30 students want to enter, encourage them to participate. We do know that we want to ensure that the best comes from our school, but give every child a winning chance. Thank you to the persons responsible for this session. Thanks to the BSJ and to the FSPID for their presentations. Thanks to you, our audience, our students, our parents, our teachers, our representatives from both agencies who showed out to support. And as I said, the information will be posted on our website. The information will be available and we can participate. Thank you so very much and do have a good evening.